how much is gonna come in, nor can we guarantee when it's gonna come in.
Right.
You know, so 53,616, and that obviously takes our current balance plus anticipated income, minus October claims, minus November 21 payroll, minus November insurance, plus the distribution of taxes that we would get from property taxes, 53,616. Jeff and I went over and met with Bank Orion this afternoon. I guess there has been a request, and I don't know if it was at Jeff's request or the highway department's request, but there is, out of that 505,000 and change that we have outstanding on the line of credit, $223,000 of that is actually owed by the highway department.
Right.
Okay? We advance money on our line of credit to fund some of their operations. The question came up, what would happen if we split that line of credit and put the highway department on their own, and the county to support the general fund was separated. We met with a young man named Paul Creedy there at Bank Orion today. He did confirm that the line of credit is the $750,000, that we are paying 2.75% rate. The balance is 505, just under $506,000. If we, and he says there would be absolutely no problem in splitting that line of credit. And typically, what Jeff had suggested was we give the highway department 300 of that, and the county for general fund support takes 450 of that, and we keep the same $750,000 line of credit. Paul said the bank would have no problem in doing that. I asked him another question, which I'll get to in just a minute. If that would happen, that would give the county our current balance, which is $244,050. That's our balance minus the $223 that the highway department owns. That would give us an availability of $167,000 available out of that $450 that would be attributable to the county, and it would give the highway department a $77,000 availability of the 300 if we split it 300 and 450. And that obviously that's something the board would need to decide. While we were sitting there, he says, what else can I do for you? And I says, I want you to lower our interest rate, at least 0.25%. He says, that's possible. He says, I can't prove that, but he says, I will talk to the powers that are, and I will get you an answer. And obviously, 0.25% is really not a lot of money, but based on a 2.75 rate, that's a significant percentage decrease, and particularly when you're talking $500,000 sitting out there on a loan. The county needs every dollar we can squeeze, and I'm certainly willing to fight for that. He said that he would have an answer back to us no later than November the 19th, and I think he was gonna probably have an answer next week. He was just hedging for some time. Perhaps if that is the case, then the board can either call a special meeting and get that happen, make that resolved immediately, or wait until the December board meeting based on their answer and how they want to pursue the split, if the board wants to do the split. Okay, yes, sir.
Ron, I just want to make it clear, the line of credit is at 2.3% right now, or is it at 2.75?
It's 2.75 is
Okay.
the current rate of interest.
Okay.
And I asked him to lower that 0.25%,
1/4.
which would get us down to 250.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have my numbers right.
Okay.
Ron, is he willing to continue to keep it unsecured at this point?
He indicated that they would just continue to march. You know, they would just split that line of credit into two pieces and keep everything else the way it is, with the codicil that I asked him to reduce the rate. You know, curiously, and I probably shouldn't say this, and I was kind of half joking with him, because we were talking about his banking experience and some of my banking experiences and so on and so on. I said, you know, this is a very nice retail business commercial property, isn't it? He says, yeah, and I said, oh, did I mention I sit on the board of review? He says, oh, well, you're not gonna talk about our taxes, are you?
You know, this is.
So we had a chuckle out of it.
You know this is being recorded, don't you?
It's okay. That's okay, there was no threat by any means, but we had a nice chuckle out of it. So,
You should know where everybody's
Whenever you
coming
can use
from.
your insurance, use it.
Be open and upfront.
you know, as a side note, the Board of Review is gonna look at a lot of commercial property this year.
Ron, the big question is, we're entering into our winter months. We're entering into what has historically been less revenue from the jail. We're entering into the months where, you know, we're getting a residual of the property taxes. Your thoughts as we move forward here into the next.
My initial thought on this would be to ask the bank synonymously with splitting this and make the highway department solely responsible for their income, their expenses, is to see if they would bump our line of credit up either $50,000 or $100,000.
My question was, is our line enough?
That's why I say I would ask if we bumped our $450 up to $500 or $550, which would make the total between the two, instead of $750, it'd go up either $800 or $850. I feel like you do, Ted, that the county needs that extra cushion, going into these winter months with utility bills and so forth.
You got your holiday pay,
Oh.
you've got, you know, overtime if it's lots of snow and ice and.
Understand?
Well, that would come in on the highways and side.
Right. But on the jail side, historically, for what little history we have, a couple of years now, over the winter, it doesn't seem like criminals commit as many crimes if it's a cold winter. So, I just wanna make sure that we have adequate.
Yeah, and I think if he would come back to us and agree with that, I think we should ask that question. You know, and obviously, we would have everything to gain and nothing to lose. If they came back and said, no, we're gonna stay at the $750 because it's an unsecured and we don't wanna expose our risk any further than that, then so be it. You know, and maybe at that point, if he's willing to split that and the board doesn't feel comfortable with only $450, maybe we talk to Jimmy and say, you know, we can't give you $300. You know, we're gonna give you $275 and we pull $25 back to the county. You know, there's a lot of different options.
Is that adequate for Jimmy, or is Jimmy gonna be up against it and?
Don't know. You know, those are questions I don't think any of us can answer at this point. I know the board obviously has worked very hard in setting the budget for next year with anticipated revenues, with anticipated expenses. But again, it's just a budget and those are anticipated numbers. And, you know, we could have a very, very mild winter like we did 2 years ago, and our utility costs are reasonably nominal, or we could have a bear like we had last year, and those expenses go up through the roof. That we don't know. So,
I have a couple questions, and I suppose you've already addressed them, although I don't know the answer to them, so I'll just ask them now. You're proposing splitting that line of credit, making part of it the county board and part of it the highway department. I mean, in the event that the highway department, and I don't think they will, would default on it, doesn't it still belong to Mercer County?
it would.
Then what's the
Yeah.
point of splitting it? I don't get it.
Well, and I would tell you that it was not my proposal, okay, and I don't know if it came from Jimmy or if it came from Jeff. Jeff asked me if I would go with him and talk to the banker about this proposition.
Well, the
So I
second part,
accommodated the chairman of the board
Yeah.
and I went with him to have that conversation.
well, that's my question. I mean, if we're gonna be ultimately responsible for it anyway, what's the point of splitting? Number two is, this leads on to the tail end of that, if Jimmy's gonna get, I don't know what the number is, 250,000, whatever, is this something that needs to be done because he's gonna use this on a reoccurring basis? I mean, what I heard when Jimmy was sitting in the meeting where they asked us for the money was, this is just a one-time thing. Is this gonna be a recurring thing with the highway department? And if it's not, again, why are we doing it?
Why do it? I agree.
I don't get it.
I'm not proposing this, it was not my idea. I just was invited
Yeah,
to sit in at the
okay.
meeting and talk,
Well,
banker
there's a
talk
couple-
with the banker.
There's a couple questions that I'd wanna answer.
And we're just presenting the information back
Yeah,
to the board
I
to
appreciate
open
it.
up the conversation. If if it flies,
This is how I'm thinking.
great, you know, I think the bottom line, the least I hope to come out of this whole conversation is get rate down a quarter point.
Yeah. Well, that too.
That will help everybody.
Well, that's coupled with, you know, if half of what we owe right now belongs to the highway department, let's just say it's about half, and we owe $9,000 in interest, I guess the highway department ought to be paying half that interest, is that right or wrong?
Well, we can find that.
Have you calculated that?
Well, not yet. I told Bev today when we came back from the bank, I said, I need, a set of numbers from you. I need the date and the dollar amount that we advanced on our line of credit on behalf of the highway department. So that I can go back and based on a daily interest rate of 2.75, divided down,
Yeah.
calculate how much they owe of this $9,500 worth of interest.
I would hope we're doing
Yeah,
that, yeah.
and I told Bev, I said, I need those numbers, and I said, I will calculate that out.
But again, I don't see why we're worried about splitting it, if in fact the county's gonna be ultimately responsible for it anyway. I don't understand why we do that.
Well, they went out and got a loan by themselves for a line of credit to a bank, which I'm sure they probably could. We'd still have to back it anyway.
That's my
They've
point.
done that.
Whether it comes out of our $750,000 or not,
Yeah,
we're still gonna have.
we're
to
still gonna
back
be
it up.
responsible for it, that's my point, and I don't see the point in
You
splitting
know,
something like
in
that.
defense of Jeff, I think that in the budget committee, we talked about, you know, trying to, and I think this would be more of an accountability thing. Because we're gonna talk about the budget here, and we've got a lot of questions, but I think that it was really trying to, say, hey, Jimmy, you know, this is a line, this is it, if you can't operate within, you're gonna have to make reductions or cuts, or, so, you know, I think in defense of Jeff here, I mean, I was part of that discussion, and, you know, you're right, ultimately, the county is responsible for it. But I think that, and again, this, you know, we've got a new board coming in, and we've got this board here, but I think it was more trying to have accountability, wasn't it, Larry and Jeff,
Yeah.
in discussion?
Hold the highway department more accountable for their expenses than that. Because when it's underneath the county's name, you know, they tend to forget that they owe all this money. If it's
Well, I don't
under
see
their
how
name,
that would happen, since we're gonna be reminding them routinely. I don't see how that happens. Somebody owes me $240,000, believe me, I'm gonna
Yeah.
remind them.
I do think we do run the risk, though, when we start to departmentalize a line, where then the sheriff's department may say, well, maybe I should have a line, or
I just wanna be
maybe
real careful with it.
another department, but really, your highway is, there's a lot of, there's more timing issues on the highway side of the equation than probably any other department that we have. I mean, I know there's timing issues in the sheriff, but on the highway side, you could get, what, a year out on getting
Yeah.
paid and.
Jimmy's almost 2 years behind on the FEMA money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
and
so-
the expenses is out there, a lot of it isn't the highway department's fault.
Right.
It's just that the cash flow.
No, I don't
the
think
money
any
is
of it's a
coming.
highway department's
No,
fault, they're just trying
that's
to do
my
the best
point.
they can with what
The
they
other
have.
point was because of these timing issues that the highway
Yeah.
department
You have
has.
to understand, and we ought to be damn mad at the state. Of course, we got a Republican governor now, so that's all going to straighten itself right out.
Exactly.
They'll pay
But
right
the
up.
motor fuel tax has been cut, almost $400,000 in the last 2 years for Mercer County? $400,000, so you wonder why he's in trouble.
And Larry, that's the point you just made, where county administrator can start to help us fish in new ponds for revenue. Ponds that we haven't fished in before.
Well, they owe the money, what George is saying, it's awful easy to say, hey, but I'm used to the school funding, where it's sometimes a year and a half
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
schedule, they don't pay their bills when
No,
they need to
no.
pay them.
No, but if the motor fuel tax that you're talking about is dropped, is there other ways and other mechanisms that a county administrator or a fund development person, whatever we want to call that person, is helping us to begin fishing in new ponds and new revenue streams to augment and offset some of these reductions? We just can't bury our head because they keep reducing it and we keep borrowing.
I think I can bring up something on other business and we'll address a little bit of that a little later, Tim. It's not on the agenda, but I've got some news for us about our other.
About fundraising?
Yeah,
Okay.
They're raising more funds.
So they would be able to access that without board permission, or they would have to come through the board each time they wanted to
Well,
access?
yeah, that's a good question,
I
I don't
would think it
know.
would have to come through the board. I think it's like Ted says, it's more of an accountability issue where it specifically
Well,
says,
Then there's
I'm not sure if it has to come to the whole board. I think the county board chairman could be the mechanism that would represent the board. You know, in other words, somebody
Well, if.
on this county board, it could be a finance committee chairman, or, you know, I don't think we need to have a special board meeting, because,
Well, usually Jimmy's claims come through the highway committee, and the highway committee advances them, says yes or no, and sends them to the board to approve.
so the board is ultimately approved.
Yeah.
But if there's an immediate timing thing where he has to go in the line, I think that we should give the board chairman that flexibility to approve.
As long as we got the two signature accountability,
Oh, I agree.
yeah.
No, I agree, we don't want.
I don't want two people from the same section being able to approve.
Well, here again, your county administrator could be part of that
Yeah,
process.
exactly.
Saying, this is the need, I've worked through all the issues, and it's, you know, so
And
again.
that's also the guy that would look at it and say, well, you know, I'm not sure this is
Well, your
valid,
county
or,
administrator
you
could
know,
challenge and
yeah.
push back and say, wait a second.
She might not like that. Also,
what?
might be a woman.
Him or her,
Whoever.
I didn't mean to
Yeah, yeah.
insinuate that it was gonna be a
The
guy.
county administrator
I don't
could
care.
be a guy, you know, that'd be great, I mean, so, all right, well, Ron, it's been great having you. I think we should give Ron a hand for producing that great baby for us, and, Ron, it's been very good having you. Ron, let me ask you a quick question. You had mentioned something a meeting or two ago, and it's been kind of stuck in my mind a little bit. And this is something that I, you know, am, you know, very, it resonated with me. You had talked about when you were on the county board, a need analysis that you did on expenses. And I think, was it for the entire county, or was it for a particular county, or?
the one that I did and had asked for particularly was in the sheriff's department. Everybody on the board at that time was very concerned about why the sheriff's budget was so much higher. And we asked the question, well, how did you come to this number of their representative that was in the board in this finance meeting? And I said, did you do a full needs analysis, you know, say, you know, this is what we need, this is what we have, this is what we've got, time, resources, all those sorts of things. You know, we used to run probably a $12 million budget at the credit union. I mean, we did all of that stuff. We had departments here or there, we had branch offices in 3 different states. I knew what it was to do a needs analysis and how to run a budget and how to run the organization, okay? You got left arms, right arms, like 5 of each. But I asked them if they had done a needs analysis, and they said, no, what's that? And I tried to explain that to them, and I said, well, how'd you get your number? They said, well, we just kind of took last year's number and added a little bit to it. Whereupon I went out to all of the collar counties around Mercer County, and I got copies of their budgets, and I took a look at their budget in dollars and cents based on per capita and square miles. And in every case, we were higher, probably 20%. Some cases more than every other county around us, both in dollars per capita and dollars per square mile. And we were absolutely being asked to approve a budget based on, well, it's better than what, more money we had last year, without even looking at what the numbers really meant. And I thought that was atrocious.
Thank you, I
agree with you.
Okay,
And that's not a slam to anybody, it's just the facts. I mean, you know, my background in setting budgets and managing a budget and all that sort of thing was different than the people that prepared those numbers.
again, not to beat a dead drum, but a good county administrator would do that.
Yep.
They would do that. Okay, thank you. Any other questions of Ron? We appreciate Ron's time the last couple of months. Thank you, Ron. I'm not sure if we'll see you again or not. If not, Godspeed. Thanks for working for the county and maybe getting that rate reduced. Probation report, Vicki Hansen.
Yes, sir. My report stands as it was written on October 15th, no additions or corrections. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Vicki. Public health? Appreciate it.
Yeah, the revenue expenses.
Any questions of Brian? Thank you, Brian. Law enforcement, Mr. Haines?
You should have the minutes in front of you, for the, law enforcement.
Any questions of Mr. Haines? Thank you, Mr. Haines. Phyllis, we have some, we got a resolution to dispose of some delinquent properties.
Yes, there are 4 properties that the county tax buyer has sold. Just needs our approval. That you will be sending it to the full board for approval of the resolutions, but will need me to sign the resolution list as a
Okay.
committee.
So we're gonna take these to the board tonight for adoption?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and those are in your board.
So what we need a motion to,
Yes, a motion to.
I'll so move.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carried. Mr. McWhorter is gonna talk to us about our tentative budget.
Okay, we've worked through the summer and came up with a budget, tentative budget, and that to present. I think you were all emailed copies, right, Phil? Everybody
I hope so.
provided?
Evidently was having some trouble getting emails through this
Yeah.
week, but I hope I got mine to everybody.
But in front of everybody, we worked through things, go back to the levy page first. After working through all this, we were able to decrease our levied amount of taxes to the citizens of the county by approximately $27,000.
What page is that on?
The back, the levy's from the very back, just flip it over, kid. 2013, 2014 was 3.134 million, and the assessed valuation for 14-15 was 3.107. So we've been able to work through this and decrease taxes. So I'll try and provide the same level of service to the county.
We did increase the general corporate though.
Yes, but we decreased the social security levy.
I understand that.
Right.
But I'm opposed to that. I now think that we should increase the general corporate. As I said in an email and discussions, Jeff, we're taxed enough, and anything we can do to continue to reduce taxes. I can tell you one quick area that we could pay for this is that under board stipends and reimbursements and stuff, I know I speak for the new majority, until the county is not borrowing money to operate, we will continue to work for free. That's a pledge that we made, both of these are, and we are going to dig in on that.
Well, I don't know if legally we can make that.
For the Republicans, we can choose
You can.
not to. For the remaining county board members, they can choose what they want. That's their prerogative. We're not saying that they can't, but I'm saying we can reduce, because whoever the next chairman is gonna work for free. So we can reduce that, and then I think that we would reduce that to more than to pay for this reduction in taxes.
What's the number then, Ted? That you're gonna reduce?
Well,
You got
what page is that on?
98, and 40, I don't think the county whole stipends or anything combined is $47,000, is it, Phil?
For county board,
Yeah, what is it, George?
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I just want you to keep in mind that there's $7,000 in there that you can't change. With our recorder or our, what's her title? What does she do for
Board
us?
secretary.
Our board secretary, you're gonna have to pay her, so you can't use that.
That's fine.
That comes out of that money, so.
This last year, we estimated that you for the per diems would be 23,577.
And we appropriated 30,000 for the,
Well,
per diem for all the board.
How much was that, Jeff?
30,000 is what we
It's on page
appropriated.
4.
Yeah, on page 4.
Okay.
And thanks to, you know, the people who haven't turned them in, estimated for 14 is gonna be 23,000. So there's a $7,000 savings here.
Well, I think that could be reduced, whatever we need to do to reduce, you know, that expense at an appropriate level. Looks like here we've got a per diem of 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got, secretary salary, and then we've got mileage and convention of 10, so a total of 48, so probably 7 of that you can't touch. The rest of that, the 30 and the 10, which would be 40,000. You could probably reduce that by at least 80%, I would think. If not more.
70%.
Well, remember, the chairman's salary's in there.
That's correct, that's
So it
more
would-
than
it would be
everybody
more than
else's,
that.
so yeah, probably be 80%.
Well, if it works out that way, the bottom line would be better without reducing it. The end of 15. It'll reflect in the end of 15, when the carry through the cash will be an increase, it's still even leaving in that budget. Because you're estimating your disbursements will be less than we appropriated. So you'll gain it in the end.
If the month-to-month bills don't go over what's already on the budget, and there's never any guarantee
Yeah.
of that, I mean.
But I mean, you know, you'll carry that through,
Well,
that savings through to the end.
Yeah, I'm
in
just
that
saying,
line.
no, that's not
Yeah,
gonna
I
happen,
know,
Jeff,
George.
because we've
I
got
know.
$500,000 we've already borrowed from the
Yeah,
bank just to
yeah, I know,
cover it.
I realize
Yeah, if
that.
I, you know, my point is that, you know, we're willing to, whatever we have to
Well,
do.
voluntarily, people can do that.
That's right, and
Right.
we're saying that we do not want corporate tax to go up for the citizens of Mercer County.
And so the
Because your overall
so the
taxes
people that
will
do
not go up.
expect, who do get the per
They don't
diems
go
and
up.
that, that's saying that we want this tax? No, that's not right.
No, you're
We're
just
saying
picking one
is as
tax
long
out
as
of
we
this
get per
whole,
diems and the county.
Jeff,
that's one out of this whole thing here.
We're increasing that tax up 4.99%.
You're increasing one tax and we're decreasing another. The bottom line for the taxpayers is a decrease in taxes here.
Well, let's make it more.
Yeah, why don't we just pay the county just to sit in these seats, how's that?
Are we public employees or public servants?
Well, we're public servants, but how did we get elected? Well, we weren't the ones that negotiated what the pay was, did we? No,
Gary,
that was already established before we came in. Now, you're talking about the majority, I'm gonna talk about the minority one. No, what big corporation do you know, and you're a businessman, how many of these people that go in there and have these big paying jobs, you know, they don't do it for nothing, right? But yet they still wanna see their business grow, correct?
School board don't get paid.
Right?
So
Now,
you're
we've
thinking-
heard for the last 8-9 months about, we're not taking a penny until the balance, the budget is balanced. That's fine and dandy. If that's what you wanna do, that's fine.
Gentlemen, you can go ahead and approve this budget, you know, we're gonna revise it. So I'm just saying that, you know, there's issues here. The biggest problem is this, and I asked Ron, did you get the message I asked you, Ron? Does this budget reduce borrowing?
I did not get that message.
I sent it to Bev, to you, to take a look at, does this budget, overall, the bigger picture is, does it reduce our dependency on our line of credit?
I would be glad to look at it, but I don't have an answer because I didn't get the message.
Okay, I sent, well, my apologies if you did not get that
And
email.
she sent it as a forwarding email. I didn't get it.
I'll state one thing, I'm very conservative on income, the expenses I account for everything. I'm not gonna push the income any to make the rosier picture. I'm very conservative on the income coming in.
It's already been cut once, from what I understand. It used to pay $50 for every
Oh,
meeting.
per diem, I'm just talking about the budget in general. The way I look at the budget in general, the expenses, I use expenses, income, I try not to push the income there. And we didn't. I mean, we could have pushed the income in a couple spots that we have high hopes that it's gonna increase in, but it's not time to do it until we actually see the money come in. And that's my statement on it.
Well, you know, my question is to Ron,